Good evening. You're watching the News at 6 with me, Ishan Russell. The News at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories. And one of the big developments that happened today was the declassification of the Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose files by the West Bengal government. We'll be having a special discussion on that as well during this bulletin. But first, the headlines that we're tracking right now. Declassified for public viewing at the Kolkata Police Academy, the Netaji files reveal sustained surveillance of Netaji's family. As US Fed keeps rates unchanged, industry hopes soar of potential RBI cut, and the Sensex and the Nifty record hefty gains because of that. The NDA allies declare first list of candidates for the Bihar Assembly elections. The LJP list has 12 candidates and the HAM has 13. And 13 Taliban terrorists shot dead as they try to storm the Air Force base in Pakistan. 17 people, including an army officer, killed while offering morning prayers at a mosque. The top story this evening, the unchanged US federal rates have boosted the market on the last day of trading of the week. In fact, riding high on the hopes of the RBI will also cut interest rates. The Sensex and the Nifty gained substantially. The rupee is well strengthened to a 3-week high against the dollar.
US Federal Reserve's decision to not raise interest rates led to a strong rally in the markets on Friday. While the Sensex and Nifty gained sharply, the rupee also rallied, lifting the market sentiments. Sensex gained as much as 500 points. Nifty also rose by more than 100 points during intraday trade. Rupee also grew to its strongest position in the last 3 weeks against dollar. One of the major factors that helped markets gain is the hope for a rate cut by the RBI. It was bolstered by the US Federal Reserve's overnight decision to keep its rates unchanged.
The Federal Open Market Committee reaffirmed the current 0 to 0.25% target range for the federal funds rate. Since the committee met in July, the pace of job gains has been solid. The unemployment rate has declined, and overall labor market conditions have continued to improve.
A hike in US could have sparked further volatility in the Indian stock markets. The central bank is set for a bi-monthly monetary policy at the end of the month. It's under immense pressure from the government and the industry to cut interest rates to boost growth. But RBI chief says the key to economic growth is a low inflation.
The key tasks are to keep inflation low, not just today, but well into the future, so that we get moderate nominal interest rates.
RBI's rate cut hopes brightened after retail inflation eased marginally last month. Continuing its deflationary trend for the past 10 months, wholesale inflation also plunged to a historic low in August. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
On to a focus story for this evening. The West Bengal government declassified 64 files related to the legendary freedom fighter Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose today. Now, hidden in government and police lockers for years, the files are on display at the Kolkata Police Museum. They will be allowed for public viewing from Monday. So here's a peek into what's been revealed from these files so far. In fact, we'll try to get that story out for you in just a bit. All right, so the story is ready, so here, have a look at it.
West Bengal Chief Minister had announced a government's initiative last week. On Friday, 55 files from Kolkata Police and 9 from the State Police were declassified, with hopes that mystery surrounding Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's final days will be cleared.
You must know the truth, and truth must come out. Let the good sense prevail among all of us. Why we should be worried and why we should hurry the things. Let it come out. Today or tomorrow it will come out.
The files, which are kept on display at the Kolkata Police Museum, will be thrown open to people from Monday. The files reveal the details on the doubts that continued regarding Netaji's death in various quarters. One letter written by a Swiss journalist to Netaji's brother Subhash Chandra Bose in 1949 questioned the theory that he died during a plane crash 3 years ago.
Today it has been established that certain icons of the independence era look like villains. It should be completely exposed. Who are the villains of independent India?
The files reveal sustained surveillance of Netaji's family, and the activities of the Netaji Research Bureau in Kolkata. On 20th August 1965, a weekly secret survey of the Netaji Research Bureau by state intelligence officers intercepted communication between Netaji's nephew, Sisir Kumar Bose, and Japanese author Tatsuo Hayashida. Bose claimed he had information through government sources that reject the Saigon plane crash theory. The state government and Netaji's family now hopes the centre to declassify other files on the freedom fighter.
This much we can assure you that no one has taken a more serious view of the need to find out the truth. The Prime Minister will take a final call on the basis of the national interest.
The declassification of files related to Netaji has been a key demand not only from the family but from several political entities as well. However, the centre has clarified that declassification of such files could compromise India's foreign relations. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And Dr. Rakesh Bhattacharya, a historian at JNU, now joins us to help us understand, Doctor, from a historical perspective, really, are we addressing the issue of Netaji's disappearance? Do you think this is going to clarify some points as far as that entire issue goes?
Actually, what as a historian makes me happy with declassification move by the state government in Bengal is that at least we have a sense that documents are must be in the public domain. And that's why many of us had actually campaigned for right to information. Because right to information is a citizen's right, more so for historians who have toiled in the archives. And therefore, some of the issues that have actually disturbed the public imagination over the last 50-60 years, one of them being Netaji's disappearance and the continued controversy about it, whether he died or not died. So these documents might solve certain issues, might again complicate certain issues. But that apart, what happens for the for larger audience, one must say that state behaves in certain way, which is not the way historians behave or the citizens behave. The state had its certain priorities in which, keeping surveillance might be a normal course and which continued later on without people realizing that this should have discontinued. So that should not agitate us more that why Netaji was surveilled and not others. Many other people surveilled.
Right. In fact, the conversations that we heard, the sound bites that we heard in that story itself sort of tries to paint a black and white picture. Now, do these documents, the declassification of documents, address that grey area in history? And do you think that as far as people being painted as heroes or villains is concerned, that's not what history really, or the historians have really been doing, as is being alleged by some of the people who was talking over there?
You see, this is history has been a domain of contest in this country, and is a very bitter contest. The same government, same establishment which talks about document-based truth history is also talking about non-document faith-based history. You know, so we are in a domain of very interesting dilemmas. But in true sense, what is happening is that when you make this black and white, as you said, rightly so, black and white picture, then the real purpose of declassification of documents get completely blurred, completely hidden, or completely obliterated from public education system. What we actually see, in fact, Bengal has what is called the intelligence archives, where a lot of files, hundreds and thousands of files are kept in Lord Sinha Road, where many of the files, generally in the intelligence, the way we historians work, many of the files are called live files. Live files means the people who were on whom the files were made or opened, those people are still live, their families are alive. So opening those files might jeopardize their contemporary life, their families' lives. So therefore, state quite often, and on its wisdom, do not open those files. Historians try, therefore, professional historians should always be encouraged to look at this document-based history so that they understand what is prejudicial, what is not. What happened in the meantime in most of the post-colonial country, but thankfully India was one of the most civilized in that sense, that the archival process was on. and 30 years archival process where after 30 years files are declassified. That was not happening in many cases, and that's why the entire debate, our happiness over Netaji's files coming out or should come out from the center and all. But this should be a normal process in every other country.
Do you think it's going to happen now? Do you think this hastens the process for others? And other than the Netaji files, there are a lot of other pieces of information that have been classified. For example, the Brooks-Henderson report is one such thing that has created a lot of controversy. So as far as history goes, and in the present context, are we digging in the wrong place in the sense that instead of looking at the future, are we looking too much at the past?
The problem, Isan, is that we are not trusting the professional historians of this country. If you trust them, they will tell you the right path. Even this debate, which is taken the political class at the center stage, should have been taken by the historians. In fact, within the Netaji clan, the person who is not coming vocal is a historian, Sugata Bose. He should be the centerpiece of the whole episode. He should be asked for making comments, but he's not making comments in that sense. His comments would be nuanced. So historians' comments would be nuanced. Historians' understanding of the documents are nuanced, and therefore historians, if left to the professional historians, they will tell you which documents are to be released and why if not small, but entire range of documents should be open to professionals, to larger audience, larger citizens, so that they can make their own judgments.
Absolutely. Larger questions indeed emerging out of files other than the fact that what the files contain themselves. But thank you very much, Dr. Batabyal, for coming in and helping us understand this a little better. Well, moving on now onto our verdict 2015. We're talking about the Bihar Assembly elections, and the NDA allies, the LJP and the HAM declared their first list of candidates for the assembly polls there. Now, while the LJP list contains 12 names, including that of party chief Ram Vilas Paswan's brother and nephew, the HAM has announced 13 names. The NCP leaders also held a meeting to decide its candidates. They're expected to make an announcement tomorrow.
Days after sulking over the NDA's seat-sharing deal, the Lok Janshakti Party has declared its first list of candidates for the Bihar Assembly elections. Declaring the first list, the party's parliamentary board chairman and Ram Vilas Paswan's son, Chirag Paswan, admitted there was a consensus with NDA allies only on 29 of the 40 seats. Talks are underway to finalize the remaining 11 seats, which the party will contest. The seats for which LJP declared its candidates are spread over different phases.
कहीं ना कहीं हम लोग को ईमानदारी से इस बात को कबूलना होगा कि जब आप एक गठबंधन में होते हैं और एक ऐसा मजबूत गठबंधन जहां पर एक बहुत बड़ी राष्ट्रीय पार्टी है जो कि हमारे गठबंधन में प्रमुख साथी की भूमिका में है भारतीय जनता पार्टी, जहां पर दो और महत्वपूर्ण पार्टियां हमारे साथ हैं, राष्ट्रीय लोक समता पार्टी, मांझी जी की पार्टी। तो जब आप गठबंधन में होते हैं कहीं ना कहीं फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी होनी बहुत ज़रूरी है। कुछ स्तर पर आपको कॉम्प्रोमाइज़ करने, एक बड़े उद्देश्य के लिए, एक बड़े लक्ष्य के लिए आपको अगर कुछ स्तर पर कॉम्प्रोमाइज़ करने पड़े वो करने पड़ते हैं।
Meanwhile, the Hindustani Awam Morcha also announced its first list of candidates. It contains 13 names, including that of former Bihar Chief Minister and HAM Chief Jitan Ram Manjhi.
जनता साथ देगी हम लोगों को ताकि हम लोगों की एनडीए की सरकार बनेगी। 23 माने में भाजपा के हमारे साथी और नेतृत्व ज्यादा हमसे ज्यादा सोचते हैं और उस लाइन पर जो हमारे लिए ईयर मार्क किए हैं उसको हम मानते हैं।
The LJP had earlier voiced concerns that HAM and RLSP had been given a better deal in terms of seat sharing, which was disproportionate to their political strength in the state. But the concerns seem to have been addressed for now. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, the Election Commission has rejected the plea to ban Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Man Ki Baat radio program during the Bihar polls. The Congress and its alliance partners in the state had alleged that it could be used to directly influence the outcome of the elections, thus violating the Model Code of Conduct. The Election Commission had earlier said that it cannot put a blanket ban on the program. However, it is a short of action if parts of the program are found to be in violation of the Model Code of Conduct. Moving on now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today visited his home constituency, Varanasi, for a day-long tour. The visit comes after two previous trips were cancelled for various reasons. Modi interacted with a few rickshaw pullers, telling them that his government's first aim was to make the poor self-sufficient in the use of technology. The Prime Minister emphasized skill development, telling people of Varanasi that this was the best way to equip children in the fight against poverty. He distributed 101 e-rickshaws and 501 cycle rickshaws under the Jan Dhan Yojana scheme. He mocked political rivals for questioning his scheme, though.
अपने जीवन में कुछ कर गुजरने की इच्छा हम करीब पिछले 40-50 साल से गरीबी हटाओ इस बात को सुनते आए। अब तक जितने प्रयोग हुए हैं उन प्रयोगों से जितनी मात्रा में परिणाम चाहिए था वो देश को मिला नहीं है।
Now, an Indian fisherman was killed today in firing from the Pakistani side when his fishing trawler neared the international maritime boundary line between India and Pakistan in the Arabian Sea. The incident took place about 100 nautical miles off the Okha coast in Gujarat. The dead fisherman was identified as Iqbal Bhatti. Gujarat shares a 1,600-kilometer long coastline with Pakistan. It wasn't clear if the Indian boats crossed the maritime border and what instigated the firing. An Indian Coast Guard vessel was rushed to the spot in mid-sea. Maritime agencies of both India and Pakistan have often arrested fishermen from both sides, but firing at them is rare. Time now to take a look at all the other national news stories in Nationwide. 4 militants were killed today as the army foiled an infiltration raid along the line of control in the Gurez sector in North Kashmir's Bandipora district. The militants were intercepted while trying to sneak into the valley from across the border. 4 rifles have been recovered along with the militants' bodies from the site of the encounter. 2 people were injured today after Pakistani Rangers fired at Indian border posts in Poonch district of Jammu and Kashmir. A villager and a soldier being treated at nearby hospitals after Pakistan resorted to heavy firing and mortar shelling early this morning. The villagers living along the line of control in Poonch were forced to stay indoors without basic supplies. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has accused municipal corporations of siphoning off funds as he inspected 2 hospitals in East Delhi for the dengue preparedness. Over 2,000 people are infected in the national capital. Kejriwal also inaugurated 200 beds at the Rajiv Gandhi Super Specialty Hospital. The Supreme Court today agreed to hear on Monday the plea on which it had stayed the operation of recent changes in Haryana's election laws. The Haryana government had told the court if it did not vacate the stay on the law, then the polls that start from the 4th of October would be cancelled. The amended law fixes matriculation as essential qualification for general candidates contesting the Panchayat polls. Well, time for us to take a very quick break. Coming up on the other side, all the international news. India and Laos inked 2 MOUs as Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari wrapped up his 4-day visit. More on that on the other side.
Meat, sale and slaughter debate. Supreme Court agrees with stay on ban. Says bans can't be forced down people's throats. Is this the final word on the issue? Watch The Big Picture at 6:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. Here watching the news at 6. Now, Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari has wrapped up his 4-day visit to Cambodia and Laos, People's Democratic Republic. On the last day of his visit, important MOUs were signed between India and Laos, focusing mainly on strengthening economic and commercial ties. Neeru Vyas gets us this report from Laos.
A grand welcome for Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari at the Presidential Palace in Vientiane, the capital of Laos. This is the first visit to the country by an Indian Vice President. Giving a push to India's Act East policy, Vice President Ansari emphasized the importance of developing trade, political and economic ties between India and Laos.
Look, East policy is not sufficient. It has to be an Act East policy. And as part of that endeavor, we are actively, consciously building our linkages political linkages, economic linkages, trade linkages, above all, retaining and reviving cultural linkages which go back a very long time.
The two sides held delegation-level talks followed by the signing of two important memoranda of understanding. One agreement relates to air connectivity, while the second one was about infrastructure-related quick impact projects. At present, the volume of trade between Laos and India is to the tune of just $89.2 million, which is not reflective of India's potential.
The Vice President conveyed that Laos had geared itself well economically to take into account the coming into force of the ASEAN Economic Community by the end of this year, and that they would be assuming the chairmanship of ASEAN in 2016. India was fully supportive of this.
The Vice President also called upon the President and Prime Minister of Laos, assuring them of India's commitment to developing bilateral ties. One of the few last engagements of the Vice President was a visit to the Soldiers' Monument, Pathat Luang.
Hamid Ansari's visit to Cambodia and Laos has reaffirmed India's commitment to its Act East policy. People on both sides of the borders are now hopeful that commercial and economic ties will boost, resulting in India's greater influence in the ASEAN community. With video journalist Anirban, this is Neelu Vyas reporting from VNTN, Lao PDR for RSTV.
And let's go across to our correspondent Neelu Vyas Thomas, who got us that report. Neelu, an important visit as far as India's strategic and economic partnerships with these two countries goes. Just fill us in on how can we expect the impetus to grow from here on?
This has been one of the most crucial visits, and of course the first visit by any vice president in India, and all the engagements which happened today. The biggest takeaway, as what Vice President Hamid Ansari was saying, that the basic focus of the entire trip is to boost the commercial ties and the economic ties. So throughout the day, the biggest takeaway of the day, I would say, would be the air connectivity on which the memorandum of understanding has been signed, which means that more and more people now will be coming to Laos, and people from Laos would be going to India, which obviously results in the boosting of the economic ties. But still, there is a little apprehension as far as the private sector here is concerned, because they're saying that, yes, the talks are on. For example, yesterday at the reception ceremony, Vice President Hamid Ansari said that there should be more and more of interactions between the chambers of industry. There should be more participative exhibitions. So the contours have been made today, but no final plan has been made out as yet. But yes, affirmations and commitments have been made that India is ready to help Laos, and Laos in turn would help India in all respects. And of course, in increasing India's influence as far as the ASEAN community is concerned.
Absolutely, and indeed a very important step as far as India's Act East policy is concerned. You've been travelling with the Vice President. How was he received across these countries, especially by the general public? Because I'm sure there would be a lot of curiosity about India and how these countries are coming together with India. Of
course, Ishan, I was speaking to a number of people here who had gathered for the reception ceremony, and there were 1,000 people in the whole country. It's a young nation, as it's super 1,000 people, Indians who stay here. So now the whole idea behind this entire trip was that more and more people should travel and bringing in the economic linkages. Of course, we've had a history of old civilization crimes, but what Vice President Hamid Ansari harped on was that these civilizational ties should be now transformed into economic, political, as well as commercial linkages. And that is what the entire focus was on. And that is what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also been saying, that the Look East policy should become Act East policy. And Vice President's visit to Laos and Cambodia has just been another leg forward, and I would say rather it's an affirmation of its Act East policy. It's a kind of a commitment of India's Act East policy.
Indeed, a commitment of India's Act East policy. Thank you very much, Neelu Vyas Thomas, for coming in and helping us understand how the Vice President's visit is critically important as far as India's Act East policy is concerned. Now, Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar arrived in Nepal's capital, Kathmandu, today. Jaishankar is on a two-day visit. He was sent as Prime Minister Narendra Modi's special envoy to hold talks with the Nepalese leadership. The Foreign Secretary's visit comes at a time when Nepal is about to promulgate a new constitution. President Ram Baran Yadav is slated to do it at a special function on Sunday. News from across the border. In one of the deadliest attacks in Pakistan, Taliban fighters stormed an Air Force base, killing at least 17 people, including an army officer. 16 of the victims were offering their morning prayers at a mosque inside the compound. This is one of the bloodiest attacks since the 150 children who were massacred at Peshawar's Army Public School in December last year.
Taliban gunmen stormed into Badaber military airbase near Peshawar in Pakistan, killing at least 17 and injuring several others. 16 of them were killed as they offered their morning prayers at mosque inside the airbase. The army was quick to dispatch a rapid response force to the scene. They claimed that all 13 of the attackers were killed, but according to Taliban, only one of their fighters have died. Army is still unclear about the number of terrorists involved.
7 से 10 तक तादाद बताई जा रही है और ये भी इतलात है कि तकरीबन सारे के सारे ही मारे गए हैं, लेकिन उसके बावजूद सर्च ऑपरेशन जारी है.
All the injured were rushed to the hospital where Pakistan Army Chief General Raheel Sharif visited them. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif condemned the attack, promising to root out terrorists from the country.
अब तक हमारे पास जो है 6 जख्मी लाए गए हैं, जिसमें एक छोटा बच्चा भी शामिल है. इसमें 2 की कंडीशन थोड़ी सी सीरियस है, बाकी माशाल्लाह स्टेबल है.
The attack on the Badaber airbase is the first on a military target since a Pakistan Navy ship was attacked in Karachi in September 2014. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time now for all the other international news stories in Global Buzz. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe defeated the censure bill against him in the upper house of parliament. The government has been pushing through contentious defence legislation that could let its troops fight overseas for the first time since World War II, despite public protests and delaying tactics by the opposition. Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton has called for a high-level commission to examine U.S. defense spending. She told a New Hampshire audience that the nation needs a very thorough debate on what the U.S. needs in defense and how it's going to pay for it. The death toll in the Chilean earthquake has risen to 10. A massive 8.4 magnitude quake shook the country along with a dozen aftershocks, causing the closure of airports and subways in the Santiago city. The government has closed most schools and authorities are making efforts to monitor the geological activities. Nigerian terror group Boko Haram's insurgency in Nigeria and surrounding West African countries has forced 1.4 million children to flee their homes. New figures were released by the United Nations Children's Fund. The report said that the terror group uprooted 500,000 children in the past 5 months alone. Well, that's all from us. Goodbye.